Namaste everyone. Krishna Kumar Ji always used to say that his flagship institution, AVP, stands for Achar, Vichar and Prachar. Achar means practicing Ayurveda, Vichar means thinking or developing one's own thought process in Ayurveda, and Prachar means spreading Ayurveda for globalizing the science. He believed that his purpose in life was Achar, Vichar and Prachar of Ayurveda and other Indian systems of knowledge. And he lived by that principle and urged those who were drawn to him to do so. It was Krishna Kumar Ji's vision to prachar Ayurveda for everyone who seeks knowledge. Since taking charge of AVP Group, he managed to put Ayurveda in front of the world as a science by supporting the research activities and encouraging educational programs, as well as standardizing medicine production and Ayurvedic treatments via multiple institutions of excellence. He has always been our guide, mentor, and he inspired and supported us to push the envelope in all ways to move Ayurveda forward. Even after his loss 1 year ago, we are committed to take his legacy forward, to see his plans through, and to realize his vision. Let's start the day 4 with a prayer.
Shruti Smriti Puranokta Dharma Margaratham Gurum Bhaktanam Hidavaktaram Namasye Chitta Shuddhai Advaitananda Baridam Sadhunam Ubhakarinam Sarvashastravidam Shantam Namasye Chitta Shuddhaye Karma Bhakti Jnana Marga Prajare Bhattakam Ganam Anugraha Pradadaram Namasye Chitta Shuddhaye. Thank you.
Welcome to Prachar, inspired by Krishna Kumar Ji to mainstream Ayurveda and other Indian knowledge systems globally. Organized by Ashirvad Health and Education Trust and Sharanya Ayurveda Hospital, supported by Arya Vaidya Pharmacy, Coimbatore Limited and Ashirvad Ayurveda Pharmacy. A 7-day webinar to know the leaders of Ayurvedic movement and innovations from across the globe, challenges and possibilities according to them in the education and practice of Ayurveda in their respective countries. On day 4, we are joined by Dr. V.L. Shyam, Dr. Hafeel Ambalat, Dr. Sundar Bhim Rao Kasinath, Dr. Dhani Arun, and Dr. Nasir V.E. Thank you for joining us. We welcome all the respected doctors to Prachar. They will be introduced to you in detail by our moderator. First, let me introduce our moderator for today's session, Dr. Srija Mohandas. Dr. Srija Mohandas has completed her BAMS from one of the prestigious colleges in Kerala, the VPSV Ayurveda College, Kottakkal, and she has been working in different institutions under AVP since last 10 years. She has also been teaching Ayurveda to diverse groups of the students globally. Presently, she is working as a medical officer in Sharanya Ayurveda Hospital. Thank you, Dr. Srija, for joining with us. Over to you, Doctor.
Thank you, Dr. Rohini. As Dr. Rohini said, I am a medical officer at Sharanya Ayurveda Hospital. I have been working under Krishna Kumar Ji for almost 10 years before his loss. I joined Ashya Vaidya P 10 years ago. And after joining, after a few days of my joining, I was asked to meet MD sir. And I was so scared that I was going to meet the head of this institution. But when I met him, he invited me in and spoke to me like an old acquaintance, asking about my hometown and talking very casually, easing all my anxiety. After that, since then, he has been a tree under which we all thrived. Words can never express what he was to all of us and our institution. Bowing to him, let me continue with today's program. Today, we have with us a few physicians who have made their mark in the Middle Eastern countries. The Gulf countries are where Ayurvedic medicines and care are available more easier than the rest of the world. And some of these people worked relentlessly for it to make happen. Thanks for them. We are seeing a lot more health tourism in India from these countries due to the awareness about Ayurveda. Before we start our session, dear delegates, kindly put your questions in the chat box. I will ask them to the speakers as the time permits. Our first speaker is Dr. V.L. Shyam from UAE. Dr. Shyam is a medical director of Dr. Shyam's Ayurveda Center, which operates in 6 Ayurvedic clinics in Dubai. He has been an Ayurvedic practitioner, teacher, and business entrepreneur for 22 years across 19 countries. He is the first Ayurvedic practitioner licensed by the Ministry of Health UAE in 2003. He is a faculty member, Ayurveda Department, Southern California University of Health Sciences, USA as well. He is a member of International Expert Consultation Meeting 2019 on WHO benchmarks documents for the practice in Ayurveda and Unani medicine. Today, he will be speaking to us about practicing of Ayurveda in UAE, possibilities and challenges. Welcome to the program, sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you, AVP, for organizing, such a meeting. First of all, my humble pranam and Shraddhanjali to the beloved and most respected Krishna Kumar Ji. This snap, it was taken during Krishna Kumar Ji's last visit to Dubai in 2017 for the Ayush conference. Dr. Thani is also there, one of our speakers today. And Krishna Kumar Ji, he was my first employer. He gave me the first salary. He gave me a motivation to pursue Ayurveda career more seriously when I didn't know what next after my BAMS program. I'm indebted a lot to you, Krishna Kumar Ji. I didn't wish to put, a late in front of his name because Krishna Kumar Ji will live in the heart of all of us. Today, I was suggested to talk about the possibilities and challenges of Ayurveda practice in the UAE. So, see, Dubai, it is always, fond of being the first, tallest, and the largest in the world. We have the tallest building, the tallest hotel, the largest shopping mall, the largest man-made island, etc. But not only in terms of building and infrastructure, we are also ahead in several disease prevalence also. Say, for example, we have plenty of sun in UAE. However, more than 80% of the UAE population is vitamin D deficient, making this country one of the highest prevalence of vitamin D deficiency. And in this presentation, I will try to cover the regional aspects, the practice of Ayurveda in the UAE, the Ayurvedic community in UAE, and all these things in my presentation. See, this UAE, it is a confederation of 7 emirates consisting of Abu Dhabi, which is the capital, then Ajman, Fujairah, Ras Al Khaimah, Sharjah, and Al Quwain. And each of this emirate, it is governed by a ruler. However, all these emirates, they jointly form the UAE federal government. When you look at the population of UAE, it's very small population, only 10 million, and of which 80% are expatriates. 80% of the population of UAE are expatriates. So this multicultural, multi-ethnic country, it is a home for 200 nationalities, of which 25% are Indians. Another 20% is from Pakistan and Bangladesh, maybe another 5% from Nepal and Sri Lanka. So that is approximately 50% of the population of the UAE is from the Indian subcontinent, who have an understanding about Ayurveda. Rather, Ayurveda is close to the hearts of 50% of the population of UAE. So a persistent pace of development in the last 20 years, it has resulted this area as one of the highest per capita incomes in the world, reaching around $70,000 US. UAE, it is also rated as the second safest country in the world after Iceland. See, in this photograph, you can see how UAE was in 1990 and how is it right now. So it is an evidence of the development in the last 20 years. So infrastructure, education, healthcare, they were all negligible before. However, currently the healthcare recipients, that is our patients and Ayurveda seekers, they are particularly sensitive to the perceptions and the quality of their healthcare delivery system. So, see, there is a major shift, in UAE to an urbanized civilization. So this shift to an urbanized civilization, it has resulted in a lot of health issues also. Say, for example, arthritis affects 20% of the UAE population. The Jangala Desha and the extreme summer heat contributes. And as per our textbooks, we studied, Jangala Desha is Vada Pitta Bahulaha, Stira Kathina Manusha Prayogatyaha. However, this Jangala Desha is inflicted with a Kapha Vigara to the extent that 1 in 5 people in UAE is likely to be suffering from diabetes and other metabolic diseases. So 60% of the population of the UAE is either overweight or obese. Say again in the slide, you look at the prevalence of diseases like psoriasis, asthma, allergy, kidney stones, heart attack, depression, cancer, and our favorite area, low back pain, affects around 65% of the UAE population. Hearing these, some of my Ayurvedic doctors, who is online right now, might be thinking of setting a practice in UAE. You are all, most welcome. But before that, you need to understand a bit more about, the UAE. See, the horizons of healthcare, it is changing and expanding in UAE. And, there has been a great deal of excitement about Ayurveda in the UAE, which is promoted by the Indian population and by the media. And there is a continuing demand for, and there is a popular usage of traditional medicine in the UAE and the entire Middle East. Keeping, all the market forces aside, a surprising number of general practitioners also getting interested in Ayurveda. However, see, the science, we say that, Ayurveda is lacking scientific validation. See, this lack of scientific validation of Ayurveda has not prevented the increased use of such therapies, because several times the phrase clinical legitimacy, it can be seen as a trump card that overrides the scientific legitimacy. According to me, the consumers as well as the general practitioners of UAE, they are overlooking into Ayurveda. See, as a result of increasing interest and demand of the public for the Ayurveda and other alternative medicines, the UAE Ministry of Health has commenced a wing named the Traditional Complementary and Alternative Medicine in the year 2002. The Ministry of Health has implemented few licensing formalities also. Therefore, no person shall practice Ayurveda in the UAE without being licensed by the Ministry of Health.
So successfully passing the traditional, complementary and alternative medicine qualifying examination, it is a prerequisite to practice Ayurveda in UAE. I was just lucky to be the first licensed Ayurvedic practitioner. I came to UAE in 2001, where Ayurveda was not recognized as a medicine. However, in 2017, I was awarded as the best physician by the Dubai Health Authority from the pool of Western allopathic doctors also. So I consider these awards are an recognition. It is for our great science, Ayurveda. And it gives you an idea about, how the UAE is accepting the Ayurvedic healthcare. Let's have a look at the government frameworks also. The Department of Traditional, Complementary and Alternative Medicine is under the federal ministry, which is under the UAE government. The Ministry of Health conducts examination for the Ayurvedic practitioners and for the therapists also, and give evaluation certificates. As UAE is a federation of 7 emirates, each emirate has its own health authority. But having MOH evaluation in hand, a practitioner can practice in Dubai or in Sharjah or in Ajman, following the rules and regulations of that emirate's health authority. In UAE, there is a special zone also named Dubai Healthcare City, which is an independent zone. MOH evaluation is not applicable in the Dubai Healthcare City. Dubai Healthcare City conducts its own examination. See, it's not only about the recognition of Ayurveda. There are several restrictions also which are imposed upon Ayurveda in the Ayurvedic practice in the UAE. Ayurvedic practitioners are prohibited from surgery, doing injections, cancer treatments, etc. But however, the most appreciated one among these is the control of the Ayurvedic massages. Ayurvedic therapies are no more allowed in UAE without having an Ayurveda doctor on board and without having a licensed therapist on board. Therefore, the spas and massage parlors, they are not allowed to use the term Ayurveda. So it has to be appreciated. See, let me give you some idea about the Ayurvedic fraternity in UAE also. Almost 200 Ayurvedic doctors licenses and around 150 plus therapist licenses are issued by the Ministry of Health. Similar number of practitioners are there in the other TCAM systems also. See, we have Emirates Ayurveda Graduates Association, and we have Ayush Task Force under the Science India Forum. So we have a reasonably good community. See, you need to understand that, it is not only Ayurveda which is approved in UAE. UAE has opened the gates to Unani medicine, Chinese medicine, homeopathy, etc. Now, the patients will decide which system to choose from the basket of different medical systems available in UAE. So, as an Ayurvedic practitioner, we should be ready to cater the complete potential of Ayurveda to the patient. So, giving false promises, making gimmicks, giving incomplete service delivery, they shall rather make negative impacts to Ayurveda. And see, I feel, the efforts for the propagation of Ayurveda is nothing new. We need to critically think why Ayurveda couldn't get its roots in another country other than the Indian subcontinent before this century. Is Ayurveda in its present form fit for globalization? We need to explore this. So I feel, what may work in India may not work abroad. For example, the difference in the desha plays a key role in the Ayurvedic treatment. For example, while treating a Vata condition in Kerala, a physician in Kerala will knowingly or unknowingly consider the Anupadesha and prescribe medicine which are Vata Kapha balancing in nature, be it Rasna Saptakam, Jarya Rasnadi or Varanadi. Applying the same principle in a Jangala Desha like Arab countries might backfire in several instances. So we need to incorporate a desha-based dosha involvement. And we have a common belief system that, the sun always rises in the east. And the Ayurvedic Dinacharya and Rudhucharya of India will apply everywhere. In a country like UAE, which is on or above the 23-degree latitude, the sun rises never in the east, but at the southeast. So though there is Ayana, or though there is Gadi to the Uttara direction, UAE do not have 6 seasons as in India. So one need to sense the Chaya, Kopa, Prashama stages and formulate a tailor-made Rudhucharya for each country. And not only this, the difference in food, lifestyle, Satmya, Sattva, all this vary from country to country. So a detailed analysis through a Dasavidha Pariksha is especially important for any physician practicing Ayurveda in the Middle East or in the UAE. See, as per the UAE rules, only government-trained, Ayurveda college-trained therapists having 2 years of experience and those who cleared the Ministry of Health examination are allowed to practice Ayurveda in the UAE. So creating more number of quality Ayurvedic therapists, it is a need and necessity to cater the global Ayurvedic demand, at least in UAE. See, you need to keep it in mind that the Ayurveda and homeopathy got recognition as a system of medicine in UAE since 2002. Hardly 50 to 60 Ayurvedic proprietary medicines, not generic products, proprietary medicines are registered to be dispensed through the pharmacies in the last 19 years post-approval. While in the same scenario, there are 250 to 300 homeopathic medicines are available across the pharmacies. So I request, the government authorities and the manufacturers to take a drive to get the approval of Ayurvedic generic products of Indian pharmacopoeia in the Ayurveda approved countries when we try for globalization and propagation. Ayurveda medicine industry, it has an enormous potential to earn, the foreign exchange and to contribute towards the growth of our country. Lack of medical stores. Even though common Ayurvedic preparations are available in the supermarkets, they are registered as supplements. Clinics are not allowed to sell these as medicines. Let's also explore some of the trends and the scope of Ayurveda in the evolving scenario. When you look at the life expectancy, it has now reached around 77 years in UAE, and it will continue to lengthen. However, not only people are living longer, but increasingly people are living longer with chronic diseases. So the rasayanas based on Tila or Ashwagandha, Kapikastu, Jyotishmati, Sanghapushpi, Triphala, all these will have huge potential in the nutritional supplement business of UAE. And when you look at the NCDs, the non-communicable chronic diseases, they account for the majority of the adult disability in UAE and in the Middle East. Ayurveda should start advanced researches and super specialities in the area of non-communicable chronic diseases. See, after having several nutritional supplements available in the market, a huge population, including the rich people in the Middle East, are suffering from health problems related to undernutrition. So the Ayurvedic concept of Deepana and Pachana, let it be Trigadu or dried ginger, and their role in ensuring the nutrition at the micro level is highly applicable in this context. See, the demand for creating a unique healthcare delivery system for the women or for the Venus is also on the rise across the entire globe. I feel, Ayurveda can easily develop a unique healthcare model for the ladies. And since, I have short of time, let me conclude here. See, Ayurveda is assuming an important role in the field of traditional complementary and alternative medicine across the UAE and the Middle East. Though Government of India do not have any signed MOU with the UAE in the area of Ayush, practice of Ayurveda is flourished to the best possible extent in UAE. And I will not be surprised to see UAE developing as a second hub of Ayurveda outside India. And as a holder of traditional knowledge of Ayurveda, our country, India, can play the role of a holistic leader. And the globalization, it offers enormous opportunities to India and to all of us as an Ayurvedic practitioner in the field of Ayurvedic healthcare. And only we will be blamed for missing such opportunities. So as the vision of Krishnakumar Ji, let's keep our Ayurvedic tradition live and nurture Ayurveda to its core. Thank you so much. And thank you, AVP.
Thank you, Dr. Shyam. That was a very interesting and very informative presentation. Please kindly wait for the discussion session. We move on to the next presenter, Dr. Hafeel Ambalatta. Dr. Hafeel has 20 years of treating patients with integrative approaches of treatment with different medical systems. He is a CEO and co-founder of the Healers Clinic, Dubai, UAE. Today, we are here to speak to us about life as an Ayurvedic practitioner in Dubai, the unique approaches. Welcome to the program, sir.
Can you hear me?
Yes, doctor.
Okay. Namaste, all of you. And a special thanks to AVP, definitely my own place, to giving us an opportunity to remember Krishnakumar Ji and also take his spirits forward, and especially the vision he has set forth. Now, Dr. Shyam has already given what it looks like outside India, especially your neighborhood, how it looks, and how beautifully it has transformed our lives and practices in definitely giving Ayurveda a different dimension. Now, what you probably have not necessarily noticed in Shyam's presentation in the beginning, that he has outreach to 16 countries. I don't know how far it would have been possible if you are sitting in India, Kerala, and practicing. So Dubai or UAE has given us that kind of an extensive possibilities on spreading this message and definitely fulfilling his vision. Now, if you ask me how, as an Ayurveda practitioner, how my life was, it was like people like Shyam, and there are a few other people who has traveled across, and definitely they have put a path forward, and at least the awareness was good in certain circles. Our job was slightly more easier, not necessarily like how they fought 30 years back to show what is Ayurveda is, because it was recognized or not even recognized. I mean, it was understood as something which is occult or something which is to do with the oil massage. So at least our contemporary people should be very thankful to people like us to show that this was something which is to do with the clinical practice, and it has got a face of a doctor, a face of a relationship as a Vaidya to the patients, because otherwise it would have been just be in the mess like what we have seen in different parts of the world, which we are fighting just to tell the people, saying that this is not just massage, this is not a different version of massage. So UAE has set that example, so definitely a lot of people's effort and convincing. And also we had a great leadership in this country, which was very keen on herbal traditions and respectful way he has looked at our countries like ours. So that has set forth certain kind of a deep-rooted emotions relating to traditional medicine. Now, as a practitioner, how was my journey? So I need to definitely, in the context of Krishnakumar Ji and his aura around our college and how he has looked at each disciple. That was something which I need to touch upon, and you need to see how each visionary in a contemporary structure can influence people like us, or the people they are being groomed as an Ayurvedic physician in the current context. I was a normal backbench guy in the class. You know, backbench guys usually becomes very naughty in life. So he has identified. So that is where the difference is between a leader and an assigned guru in somebody's life. He has been both to us, not only to me, many of us. He used to identify, he has arms and legs and eyes, which is working inside the college, observing people and their potentials and groomed them. So that is what the guides would do. So he had all these wonderful combinations of a personality who can make a better place in any given situation in the world. So I was one of those identification, and there was always been a middleman in between. I don't know if you know the name Gigi or Gangadharan. So both of them used to be something which has been a very instrumental in my life. It has turned around my life. So what was a turning around other than just being an Ayurvedic physician? So one phase of Krishna Kumar Ji was very keen, and really one of the side mission was to communicate to the world. So that brought in a research or a bridging research into perspective. That is what stuck my head. How you communicate this to a different world. So you have a gem of a tradition, you have a gem of a science. Probably people will ridicule us when we call it science, but it's definitely a science. And we are also not only science, we are also shastra. So these are two different things which we hold on to our science. So he has showed us or seeded that particular way of communicating to the world, how your science has to be reaching into different people's heart. So that was struck to me. And by the end of my final year, I have been asked to look at something which was, he was communicating to different very noble institutions in the world, such as Oxford universities and etc., to look into Ayurveda and to see where this bridge can be built. So I was put into, definitely through different other people, to look into something which was coming from Oxford University, to look into the nerve regeneration study. Then later we did something to do with the bone setting traditions. And so my role was to look into and what are the possibilities of these studies. So I went into a pilot. Then I also went into something to bridge the modern students from Oxford Medical School to tell how this is different. So they have this 1 month course which is coming into, and I was supposed to guide them through this various forms of traditional medicine, including Ayurveda and local health practices. From that identification, he was asked, or it was rather a command, to meet someone in Bangalore. So that turned around my life further. So he became my mentor, Darshan Shankar, Sri Darshan Shankar from FRLST, Foundation for Revitalization of Local Health Tradition. Now, that journey or that tickling or that way of looking at the world, not just from the normal realm of Ayurveda and its education, has changed us. So you need to see from a Gurukula kind of a very modest kind of education under the foothills of Western Ghats, and talking to or creating a language by itself, understanding the algorithms which works in the modern field of healthcare, such as institutions like Oxford and etc. So he was looking at a 100-year-old vision, 100-year beyond vision, to see this bridging coming up. So we happen to be, or I happen to be people like me. There are definitely other 3-4 people from college who went into the same line. So that has changed. That is what Krishna Kumar Ji to me. So it is not Ayurveda alone. It is how you stand up to the world and talk what the science you believe in and how it can be interpreted and given in different given situations. So that was Krishna Kumar Ji to us. So I'm definitely, this is one of indebtedness, and even the last visit to, definitely Shyam has showed you the picture. He also visited the clinic and he said one word which I'll pay off 1 million dirham to just get that word. He just said, I'm so proud of you guys. So this is what he was. So that vision has changed us. That was put in a perspective, how you talk Ayurveda to the world. So that is what we are. Now, as a practitioner, like most of the things Dr. Shyam has already explained to you, how we look at the world here. You need to have Desh Vichar, we need to see, but same time, our arms are tired because it is like sending one of your warriors without weapons to the field. Sometimes we don't know where the Shimula coming from. We don't know even Desmula is there at all in that bottle of what you are getting. Desmula Kadutrayadi, whether only Kadutrayam, all other things are just in the label. So I'm not questioning any ethics here, but we are in a world which is far beyond your access, like the comfort what you have to access the medications. But still we are making it, and we have a very good model, not only from us alone. I mean, the country has put down very beautiful strategy how to legalize this system. Can you imagine one traditional practice of medicine getting a standard as a GP to practice in a different country? It is not a joke, because we have worked with policies and advocacies. We understand how difficult it is, but this country has given to us, and it's one of the world's best example how to streamline something which is good for the people in a very cautious and controlled way to the public. That is what the success UAE has put in. So I'm enjoying that freedom to practice, but still we have a lot of lacuna here, especially in terms of raw drugs and medications. Even I don't know, even India and Kerala is suffering for the raw drug availability, but still whatever we get, we need to make sure that whenever it be present to the world, it is the purest form. So we don't want anything bad to come to, which will sacrifice all our good names which we have built and our forefathers have built, such as Krishnakumar Ji. So resource is a scarcity, so that definitely we get a suffering when it comes to. The second thing is the quality parameters. Now, you know, the UAE or this Middle East region has some kind of an emotional connection to India, because when we meet old ladies, the local ladies, the moment we say that we are from Kerala, you will see tears in their eyes, because that much respect they have given to India. They say, we used to stay in the shores waiting for a ship to come from India, and all of us would be there with their grandchildren and etc., just waiting for the thing. So they had an emotional trade connection, which has built in a route which made it much more easy for us to flourish, not to make it legal, but to flourish. So there are things which they are also taking to emotionally to their heart, but we should not be putting that or taking it as for granted, which we see definitely, because there are so many other things happening in terms of trade when it comes to medication. So we need to make sure that our pristine nature of science needs to be protected from the research aspect of it and also practice aspect of it, which we are very careful. And whatever trust the visionaries has put on us, we will make sure that it is always been in its best possible way. Now, somebody has mentioned the word integrate. We are into integrative practice, which doesn't mean that we are adding water or we are adding anything to Ayurveda. But we have understood, past 12 years of my concentrated effort has proved one thing to me, that the main health maintenance is the key. Because anything which is maintained, that's like what our Acharyas has opened the text. Listen to this if you want to maintain your life. You know, this is Ayush Kamiyam. You want a healthy lifespan, then please listen to this. That is a single message which we have built on in our clinic. The second most important point is that I have only one clinic, so it's basically an extension of my home. We live here, we go there, when we come patient, we come here. But what we made it also a unique way is that our place is always like a Vaidya's home. So people can walk in, they can cry on your shoulder, they can take a prescription. Sometimes we say that you don't need a prescription, just eat well kind of thing. So our entire model uniqueness is springing from Ayurvedic teachings of maintenance. Swastha Vritta is what we need for the world now. It is not a disease fight anymore. It is the maintenance fight. So we live in that, and everything springs from it. So that is what the uniqueness. Now I have integrated other practices, but with other people, but we have also taken a decision that whoever comes here, whether it is a gastroenterologist, whether it is a GP, or whether it is an orthopedician, this will be ruled by Ayurveda. This will be ruled by the maintenance principle. So this will be ruled by healers, not just any specialty person, so that we will never leave that control of our practice of integrative nature. Integrative is not mixing up. It is not a salad. It is basically the nature, what we have seen, that it is a pluralistic world. People need to have an option. So my GP say, if you have a cough and cold, wait, let's talk to Ayurvedic people, just meet our team. So 3 of us sit together and we decide, okay, dry ginger tea, this paniyam or this panagam, we also serve panagam for the matter, it's Krishna Kumar Ji taught us. So these are the things which we need to start with. And if it is required, we'll go to the next stage. So maintenance and the first contact always to be natural. It should be a natural approach. Whether you cut down your meals, you cut down or you go on a fasting and you go on certain kind of remedies which can be accessed from the kitchen, or maybe something which is available. Now we have some availability of some medication, so we'll go to it. So everything is springing from the Ayurvedic nature of, or Ayurvedic way of dealing with the life. That is what we are. And we deals with the GP we had a gastroenterology, which my colleague has retired. He is 25-year-old, but he had a great respect for Ayurveda. And we have till yoga. So we'll keep the people on their lifestyle. So we always have a long-term sustainable plan with the people. Yes, definitely we take care of acute issues, but our uniqueness comes in putting the people in a perspective on a long-term journey to spread the Ayurvedic messages. Now, I think I don't have much more to say, but I will wait for some questions and sessions, interactive sessions in a later stage. Otherwise, thanks for this opportunity. Namaste to everybody.
Thank you, Dr. Hafeel. We will have some questions for you at the end of the session, in the moderated session. Now we will go to the next speaker. Our next guest speaker is Dr. Sundarabim Rao Kashinath. He is an Ayurvedic physician and an experienced yoga teacher. He is the only B-Roga instructor in the UAE. He is a trainer of Hatha Vinyasa, Power Swing, Kids Prenatal and Postnatal, Broga, Restorative Therapeutic Yoga, and worked in India, Malaysia, Singapore, and UAE. He is here to talk to us about yoga in UAE. Dear Doctor, welcome to PRACHAAR.
Hello, namaste everyone. AVP is my home. I first started my journey with AVP. I finished my course in 2003, and since then I was associated with Krishna Kumar Ji and AVP. So I came here to UAE on 2010, and since then, now we are running up an institute here, which basically trains yoga teachers. So can I share my screen?
Yes, Doctor.
Yes. So Guru is everything in our eternal life. Everything is possible with him. Life needs some power to push you up, and Guru is that superpower. So I'm very grateful to Krishna Kumar Ji. All that what I feel that what I have achieved is all those guidelines what I have got from Krishna Kumar Ji and all my mentors in AVP. So yoga in UAE, we are, as I told, we are making teachers in UAE. We have made around 250 yoga teachers as of now. So we are associated with the Yoga Alliance in the US and also the local regulatory bodies, the Sports Council of Dubai, and the Registry of Exercise Professionals in Dubai. So when did the yoga thought reach the Middle East? So I was thinking maybe in the 60s, oil was discovered in the UAE, and a lot of Indians migrated from India. So maybe that is the time where this yoga thought might have come along with them. But when we looked into the history of yoga, it was in the 11th century, there was a Persian scholar who visited India, who lived there for 16 years and translated the first book on yoga, the Patanjali's Yoga Sutra. So this book is reached Persia and Arabian Peninsula by around 1050 AD. So the traces of yoga was there even before people starts to migrate into that, because the Persia and India were having a strong cultural similarities, and there was a lot of knowledge exchange between the two countries in the olden days. So if you look into what is the current scenario of what's happening in UAE, there is a lot of yoga happening in the UAE. I mean, a lot. So you can see that the business, when we are making a survey with some of the magazines about what is yoga here, which is happening, almost 41% of people say that they were somehow practicing yoga. There is around 41% of people who says they are already practicing yoga. It's a survey of around 6,000 people. And 15% say they have a plan to think about practicing yoga in the next 1 year. So almost 50% of people know about the term yoga, and they are very much interested to practice yoga here. Like, unlike the other traditional system of medicine, yoga doesn't have much of rules and regulations in the UAE. But one thing what we need to understand is there is a culture and subculture. I see yoga as a culture. It originated from India. It's vast. It has everything. But when a culture moved from its country of origin to another region, it turns into a subculture. Some of its principles is going to be taken out and something new is going to be introduced. Say, for example, when yoga was first started, it was seen as a spiritual pursuit. And there is a thin line difference between calling things as spirituality and religion. So when it came towards the Middle East, there are some things which is feeling that, which is crossing the thin line between that spirituality and religion. Those things were taken out and something new is introduced into that. So this makes yoga more adaptive, and there is a lot of people who started to practice yoga, irrespective of religion. And earlier there was a myth that yoga is related to religion, but that myth was broken. And we have seen that there is a lot of government initiatives in practicing yoga. There is a lot of ministries which is already practicing yoga. I will say that to you, as like the other presenters told, UAE is a land of opportunities because we have more than 200 nationalities of people who is here. And this is the place where we can showcase our traditions, our cultures, our richness to the people. So there is 123 establishment registered with Dubai Economy, which has specified yoga as a commercial activity. So anything which has been done has to be registered with Dubai Economy. And if you go and put a search term, just yoga under sports club, we see that 123 establishment, out of which 98 licenses are very much active now. There are gyms, fitness clubs, and other communities. Also, yoga is happening. This is just only about Dubai. There is Abu Dhabi and Northern Emirates also, even though more of yoga is happening in Dubai. So this is the statistics: 123 yoga studio, 150 gyms and health clubs, 40 communities, schools and special schools. And it's not just only Indian schools. Even the Emirates International School is started yoga from today. They are having it as a part of their curriculum. And every student is having a compulsory 45 minutes of yoga and mindfulness program. And also there are a lot of special schools which is including yoga into their curriculum. A lot of corporates, a lot of offices has the corporate yoga included in that. And government institutions, Dubai Police, the Ministry of Interior, the Prime Minister's office, they have regular yoga classes which is happening there. Also, there is a lot of private events happening. There is one event, X Yoga Dubai. It is an initiative of the Crown Prince of Dubai. So he is having this, arranging this event on every February, where a lot of celebrities and people who are known in the field of yoga being called, and it's going to be a very big event. And only because of the pandemic last 2 years, it's not happening. Otherwise, we used to do that regularly. During the month of November, there is a special event, 30 days and 30 minutes of fitness. And again, it's an initiative of the Dubai municipality and Dubai government, where a lot of free yoga is also happening there. So this is the ex-yoga event under the initiative of Crown Prince of Dubai. And there is Dubai police who has regular yoga happening in their for their officers and other also supportive staffs. Plus we have yoga which is happening in Sharjah, with the Sharjah club, and there is yoga happening in Ras Al Khaimah. Some of our instructors whom we train is now staying along with the royals, the crown prince, along with them, and they are teaching yoga to them. So there is not much of rules and regulations as of now for practicing yoga. There is around 1,950 yoga teachers in the whole of UAE. So they all registered with the registry of exercise professionals. And unfortunately, yoga is seen as sports in UAE. We are taking some initiatives to see like how the therapeutic or the preventive aspects of yoga can be taken to the authorities to have like yoga as a therapy. And now, as of now, there is no yoga as a therapy here in UAE, because the government regulation says anyone who wants to become a therapist should have 2 years of diploma, and that has not to be an online course. So we are trying our best to see like if we can have this included, so that along with other TCM practices, yoga can also be included into this. So the yoga which is happening here in UAE is mainly in yoga studios. So people of all walks of life, starting from kids, we have the kids yoga, we have geriatric yoga, we have yoga for teens, we have prenatal yoga, postnatal yoga. So as I told, there is a lot of yoga which is happening. And even big businesses like Lululemon and other sports clubs, they have their stores establishment opened in Dubai other than the US. And almost people who make business out of yoga, there is a lot of auxiliary businesses, yoga accessories like mat, yoga pants. So that make more businesses than actual what yoga is. So here we have seen a huge increase in the number of people who is practicing yoga, and also the number of people who is teaching yoga. Initially, when we started in 2016, hardly we graduated only around 12 people. But if you look into the last 2 years, even in spite of the pandemic, we could have able to graduate almost around 97 students to become yoga teachers. Thank you. I will wait for any questions.
Thank you, Dr. Kashinath. Our next speaker is Dr. Dhani Arun. Dhani Arun has been a RAV student at Coimbatore with Guruji Krishna Kumar Ji. She is currently an Ayurveda practitioner in Panchakarma Clinic, Dubai. And her topic of talk is Inspiration of Krishna Kumar Ji to spread the knowledge of Ayurveda in Dubai. Dr. Dhani, please.
Thank you, Doctor. Okay. Is it audible?
Yes, Doctor, you're audible. Continue. Thank you.
I'm extremely happy and thankful to be a part of this inspirational program, PRACHAAR. Going down to the feet of my Guruji, Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshwara, Guru Sakshat Parabrahma, Tasmai Shri Guruve Namah. Guru, as the term suggests, is the dispeller of darkness, and that's why we always called him as Guruji. It was through the central government CRAV program under Ayush, named the Guru Shishya Parampara, that I reached the AVP to become the Shishya of a Guru, Krishna Kumar Ji, in the year 2017-18. To become his disciple was that most bliss happened in my life. Guruji's fatherly affection, his clinical wisdom, the blessings and the spiritual guidance had given me the confidence and immense support to pursue a career in Ayurveda approach in Dubai. Talking about his classes, in his classes, rather than teaching us verbally or compelling us to do something, he just opened before us his own life and showed us how to do it. I had never seen Guruji complimenting any Shishya for his achievements or disregarding them for any failures, but he just took time to understand us, to guide us. Many a days we were astonished to see our Guruji coming to our classes without a sign of fatigue, with full of impudence and elegance. Soon after arriving from his days or week-long hectic meetings, schedules or trips. And that is his positivity. And I'm sure that everyone who had come in contact with him might have felt his positive energy. Among his roles as a guru to us, or a Vaidya, or as an administrator, or a counselor, a philosopher, or an advisor, the specificity and the equilibrium he maintained in between these roles is the one that admired me the most. According to him, the modernization is inevitable, even in the field of Ayurveda. But by sticking on to our cultural roots and holding up the moral values, then only that authenticity of Ayurveda will be preserved. For him, a Vaidya is not just treating patients, but a Vaidya is a personification of ideality. So Guruji always emphasized the importance of spirituality a Vaidya should develop within himself by practicing the deeds like getting up early in the morning, reading some religious text, doing meditation. And he says you start hearing the inner voice, the voice of God, which can guide you to the right path. And he attributed all his achievements, that envision or that shrewd glance, to his spirituality that he developed, maintained since his childhood. In case of treatments, he always searched for astrological remedies as well, along with this Ayurveda, and used to tell us that when no Padi works, go for Namopadi. Guruji always wanted Ayurveda to be in the mainstream of healthcare system. Along with the hard work, he always believed in action through inaction. So he wanted every Vaidya to think about that, to obsess and to work on it so that Ayurveda will be in the mainstream. And globalization of Ayurveda was the greatest desire of his father, P.V Rama Variar. Many a times, Guruji has told in our class that he was born to accomplish that mission. For this, he always insisted us on documentation of the clinical cases with the incorporation of knowledge of modern medical system, doing clinical research on the same, and publication of these research findings in the peer-reviewed medical journals for the scientific validation and global acceptance of Ayurveda. And he always supported the integrative approach too. For young Vaidyas like us, he was the leading light. He was very instrumental in conducting lots of seminars, CMEs, with the eminent physicians from various parts of the world to make us learn, imbibe, and practice the essence of true Ayurveda. And he had taken efforts to inculcate the study of other Indian knowledge system also along with this Ayurveda. In his class, Guruji always wanted us to understand Ayurveda in a broader sense, in a wider circle. Educational tours to Kolli Hills and the rural areas like Attapadi was an epiphany for us in exploring the ethno-botanical medical systems prevailed there. And he was always into it. And wherever we go, Guruji would make all arrangements for the same and would be taking care of us till we get back to AVP. The dedication, punctuality, perseverance, and the utmost responsibility to whatever he was assigned to is the one that made him doyen of Ayurveda. In 2018, when I was a student, he had an attack of pneumonia and was kept in isolation to prevent the cross infection. And despite the doctor's advice, he took us regular classes, face-to-face, regular classes for us. And that was his dedication. Guruji had come to Dubai also for the first International Ayush Conference and extended his full support on all those days. And he was happy to see the support the UAE government is giving for the development of this alternative medical system. And he advised me also to try this MOH exam. Once in the class, Guruji had said, in my journey for the propagation and development of Ayurveda, I was unable to practice the principles of Ayurveda in my own life. That long hours of journeys, that Vaidyaratnam, the sleepless nights, and the untimely food made negative impact over my health. Definitely, his life was a sacrifice, and he was a karma yogi. Maybe his karma in this world is over, but definitely that light of spirit radiated from Guruji will guide us in our prachar. Messages from Guru to Shishya is conveyed from soul to soul. And through the process of meditation, that communication will be continued, will be maintained. Now, I have also become a part of this prachar. Currently, I'm working as an Ayurvedic practitioner in Panchakarma Ayurveda Clinic, Dubai. My Guruji's ideologies have influenced me a lot in my clinical practice. Ayurveda is a recognized system of medicine here and is gaining acceptance. More than the Ayurvedic way of living is gaining acceptance. And definitely, and not more than that, all the speakers here, all the doctors here are working hard for its upliftment. So definitely, it's going to be a successful stream of medicine in the near future. Thank you all. My humble pranams to Guruji. Thank you.
Thank you, Doctor. Your memories of Krishna Kumar Ji is very wonderful to hear. Now we have come to the final speaker, Dr. Nasir. Thank you, Doctor, for patiently waiting. He is a senior medical officer, Coimbatore Ayurveda Center, Oman, and he is here to talk to us about clinical practice in Middle East Ayurvedic medicines that are available. Please, sir.
Okay now, okay.
Yes, sir.
Here.
Yes, sir.
Yes, good evening. Dear all Krishna Kumar Ji and AVP family members, invited guests and all the members of the Ayurvedic fraternity. Namaste. Myself, Dr. Nasir from Coimbatore Ayurvedic Center, Muscat. We are highly honored with being invited for the commemoration ceremony of our beloved Krishna Kumar Ji. As all of us know, Krishna Kumar Sir was one of the most recognized personality in the field of Ayurveda. Sir's fame and recognition was underlined and emphasized by the national awards like Dhanvantari Puraskar, Patanjali Puraskar, and Sir was also honored with Padma Shri Award, the 4th Civilian Award of India in the year 2009. Even Sir was personally called by our Prime Minister Modi Ji to discuss COVID management in the first wave itself. Krishna Kumar Sir's initiative for global spread of Ayurveda in general, specifically AVP, is noticeable and remarkable. As a part of this mission, presently we do on 4 different branches of AVP at different prominent areas of Muscat. This achievement was attained within 15 years of dedicated hard work, done with the guidance, directions, and full-hearted support from our respected Gurunathan Padma Shri P.R. Krishna Kumar Ji. In Oman, Ayurvedic system of medicine is widely accepted. Its popularity and acceptance get flourished on a daily basis. People at GCC are well aware of what areas of Ayurveda, what areas of healthcare Ayurveda can be approached. They know Ayurveda is applicable for curative as well as preventive aspects. People at GCC come for a second opinion from Ayurvedic side in surgery suggested cases, especially ortho-related. In most cases, we are able to manage the cases without surgical intervention. They believe in Ayurveda and even prefer to have admitted Ayurvedic treatments as the case demands. They are much eager to establish Ayurvedic hospitals in Oman itself. We hope well-equipped Ayurvedic hospitals might be established in Oman in the nearby future. Some of them prefer to go to Kerala, the cradle of Ayurveda, for admitted treatments and periodical Ayurvedic checkups. Some of them are well aware of Vata, Pitta, and Kapha and ask about their prakriti during consultation. Altogether, there is a very good atmosphere and future for the Ayurvedic system of medicine and other complementary systems. As a part of AVP mission of globalizing Ayurveda, we were supported by Krishna Kumar Ji and Ayurvedic company in general by innumerable ways. The uncompromised quality of medicines, timely dispatch and shipment without making shortage of medicines, had to set technical and documental support to get permission from Health Ministry to import medicines under so many existing restrictions are to be specially mentioned in this occasion. About the availability of medicines, AVP medicines are widely accepted and available all over Muscat. Its export quality packings, user-friendly and timely modified presentations make our product something different and unique. And also we make it available at an affordable and reasonable prices. Each and every AVP products are prepared with utmost care and excellent quality so that its demand all over GCC are at the paramount. Only AVP company and medicines have been approved by the Ministry of Health for importing Ayurvedic medicines at Muscat, considering its grade of manufacturing methods. The formalities to get permission and authorization to distribute medicines, which is a very long and complicated one, are under process, and we are hardworking to achieve it. But even under these struggles and restricted legal atmosphere, we have managed to make available more than 90% of AVP medicines in Muscat. We had invited Sir as our chief guest for the inauguration of our different branches and to bless the occasion. But unfortunately, Sir was not able to attend and bless the occasion due to health issues. Even during the week, physical and health status, Sir had sent best wishes and blessings for our prosperity and welfare of our all ventures. With Sir's blessing and inspirations and motivational advices, time being, we are running with leading 4 branches at prominent areas of Muscat. We strongly believe only with Sir's blessings and timely advices, we are able to develop AVP group at Muscat with 10 doctors and 40 therapists. Once again, we bestow our head, shower the flowers of everlasting gratitude and ever-loving memories. Also, we touch our forehead on the feet of our immortal Guruna with love and respect. Thank you very much for hearing me. Thank you.
Thank you, Doctor. Thank you for your presentation. Thank you, everyone. So all the presentations are over. Let's go into some discussions. Dear delegates, if you have any questions, kindly put them in the chat box so that I can ask them to the presenters. First, let me go to Dr. Nasir. Sir, you talked about the availability of medicines in Oman. So I wanted to ask that there is a lot of prejudice in the common discussion space regarding the rasa preparations in Ayurveda. So you said that there are almost 90% of medicines that are available from the Ayurvedic repertory in UAE. So are the rasa preparations included in this list, or this is something that is also viewed with a little bit of prejudice in UAE practice as well? Dr. Nasir? I think Dr. Nasir is actually offline right now. So we will have questions for some other speakers. Dr. Shyam? Namaste, sir. Sir, I wanted to ask you regarding medicines. You said that there are a lot of organizations of Ayurvedic physicians that are working together in the UAE. And what are the steps that you are taking regarding the legalization of the Ayurvedic medicine in UAE?
Yeah, actually, it's a long story, because see, the generic products of Ayurveda, it is a main component of most of the Ayurvedic practitioners, who have studied it in India. And absolutely. And when you're looking at the approval list of the Ayurvedic medicines available in UAE, none of these generic products are approved in UAE as per the MOH, as per the Ministry of Health. However, some of these products are available as registered under the municipality, which is available, even across some supermarkets, which are registered as food supplements, herbal supplements, etc. But UAE, being a country where Ayurveda is under the insurance, because when a prescription is made by a licensed Ayurvedic doctor, and when it is an approved medicine, everything will be covered, under the medical insurance. But unfortunately, none of the generic products are approved, in the Ministry of Health. Several manufacturers, they came forward to communicate and discuss this with the Ministry of Health, like several from Kerala. I'm not sure about AVP, but the procedure is so complex, in the sense, they need to have, the ingredient list, the toxicity study, the clinical study. And unfortunately, there is a long list which is required, and a lot of money and time has to be spent for the registration of each and every product. So therefore, we have made, some requests to the Ministry of Health, that when Ayurveda is recognized as a medical system, Ayurveda is based on the Indian pharmacopoeia. So without Indian pharmacopoeia, Indian formulary, there is no Ayurveda. So if you can recognize Ayurveda, why don't you recognize, the Indian pharmacopoeia in principle, so that it will be easy for the manufacturers to register their products, those generic products, in the Indian formulary, and if they follow the standards of manufacturing. But interestingly, the Ministry of Health, had a very interesting answer. They said, imagine that now we approve the Indian formulary. Tomorrow, maybe an Afghanistan formulary might come. So we might end up, approving, formularies from different countries, right? So this is not a way. So the ideal scenario would be if Ministry of Ayush, can initiate a government to government level meeting. The Undersecretary of Ayush, he was here. Minister of Ayush, when Sripat Naik ji, he was here. Dr. Rajesh Kotecha was here. They all had, different, G2G level meetings. But still, we are stuck with this issue. The ideal scenario would be if the WHO can recognize, say, like
100 products or a 200 products from the Indian pharmacopoeia or from the Indian formulary. And naturally, all the member states, will be forced to follow what is approved by the WHO. So I believe, some of these efforts are going on, and but we need to wait and see what happens.
Wonderful answer, sir. Let us hope for the best. So another question is that sir talked about the traditional medicine in UAE. So is there a stream of traditional medicine there? Does it have any similarity to Ayurveda? And is there a formulary in that traditional medicines that can be accepted and used in Ayurveda?
This is to me or Dr. Hafiz?
Yes, to you, sir. To you, you
Okay.
only.
Okay. See, every country, they have, their traditional wisdom. Every country, they have, their favorite, herbs and practices available. Similarly, UAE also have, their traditional herbs and all. Recently, I came across a family, who were also into Vasti Chikitsa using their own traditional herbal preparations. But unfortunately, those practices, they are not in an organized segment. They are not documented properly. And, there is no such clinical legitimacy, which is being proven for those medications. But the practice is on. And, they all love the concept of Ayurvedic herbs, especially, the traditional families.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you for your wonderful answer. They were very informative to us. Next question will be to Dr. Hafiz. Doctor, you talked about your experience with Gigi sir and your other practitioners of AVP in India. So how different is the practice in UAE compared to your practice in India? And you talked that there is an integrative medicine. You explained a little bit about that. And again, I wanted to ask, when you are conveying Ayurveda to the native people in UAE, is language a huge barrier that you have to cross, and the culture also, which is part of Ayurveda, a huge barrier as well when you are conversing or trying to explain things to them?
There are two things in question. One is you as a Vaidya who help the people. Then the other one, your resource-based practices, what you have, what you give to the people. So I'm just answering your first question about the difference in practice. So you need to understand one thing, a Vaidya or Ayurveda is universal. So universal means it has got its own philosophy. There are three levels Indian tradition looks at knowledge systems or epistemologies. So one is philosophy, which is Tattvika level. The other one is Shastra, where there is a science behind it. Then comes into a Vyavahara level, which is more a practical approaches to the things. So any Pracharak should be a person who is at a level of Tattvika level. If at all you are sending him as a messenger outside the world, like what happened to visionaries like Krishna Kumar Ji. So I think a pretty much philosophical understanding and Shastra level understanding should be there, whoever becomes a messenger for you. Then the language, the resources, or your environment, or your Vichar or resources available to you will become negligible in terms of as a barrier. So we have seen our practices, not only me, like people like Shyam or anybody who has come before him, they might have gone through this. So you take Ayurveda at its philosophical and Shastric level, not to be a strict regimentarian when it comes to a Vyavahar level. So I see my science or my belief system, even I consider Ayurveda is my religion, I take it from that perspective. So you wouldn't find any barrier if you spring from that route. That's why we have to put a lot of effort on our new generation to understand that the philosophy is better, the Mula Siddhanta in a much better fashion then they will not say, sorry, I didn't find Maharasna Adhikashayam, I don't know what to do now. So we need to go beyond that level so that your philosophies or your tattva and your shastra is more. So I have not personally found any problems at that level. Now comes to the communication. Yes, language. When the language comes, you take people's heart into your hand, so you can directly communicate. I don't think I have broken that barrier, but God's grace and the institutions which we have grown up, we have given a kind of a strong power to interpret the things which is based on the situations. So that way we have been lucky to meet certain professors and certain visionaries. For example, Krishna Kumar Ji, like people, observing them, how they translate the things into a world outside. So the language, now English is universal. Most of the clientele whom I meet, they speak English. There is a little bit of lesser stress when it comes to where we practice, but it may not be the same when you go to Russia or when you go to Kazakhstan or anywhere else. But in Dubai, that has been lesser a problem for us. Yes.
Thank you, Doctor. You explained everything very beautifully. Next question is to Dr. Kashinath.
Yes.
Doctor, the question is actually from one of the audiences. They asked, during COVID-19 in UAE, how did you maintain the yoga programs and what were your challenges?
Okay, so
because yoga is a very face-to-face interactive experience, and the COVID situation might have really hampered that. So how did you cope and how did you overcome that?
there was a nationwide lockdown in the UAE. It was from 20th of March to May 27th. So actually it was only 73 days which we could not able to meet any of the students. So we managed to do all of our classes online, even though we have compensated with something. But immediately when the government announced that the establishment can start, so starting from 27th of May 2020 until now, we are doing all the face-to-face classes. The only challenge what we are facing now is the restrictions from the Dubai municipality that there should be a 3-meter physical distance maintained between two people. So in most of our studios where there is a 20 people occupancy, now because of this new rule, we are having only 8 to 9. So everything is reduced in spite of the revenue, in spite of number of students turning up into the classes. But also we have got very good support from the government side in terms of reduction in our fees and also the rents. But now it is improving, but still we are maintaining only with the 3 meters gap, but we have increased the number of classes. Earlier we used to have like 4 classes in a day. Now it has been increased to 6 or 7 to manage that.
Thank you, Doctor. Next question is to Dr. Dhani. Dhani, Doctor, you were in the RIV program and you were Krishna Kumar Ji's Shishya. What is something that you took from his inspiration that helped you set up the clinic or working in a clinic in a foreign land? And also when you talk to him about this, you are going to start a clinic and work in a clinic, what is the blessings that he gave you, or what is the message that he gave you?
Actually, he always wanted the authenticity of Ayurveda wherever we practice, and he itself is a like an example for the tireless work. So how much we can work, how much we can contribute to our patients, that we will definitely do. And always he used to say that whatever the condition, whatever the situation may be, we should be approachable to our patients at any time, at any cost. This is the main thing, and the punctuality also. This is the main thing he always advised us for practicing.
Thank you, Doctor. Dr. Nasir is not here. So can I direct that question to Dr. Shyam? or Dr. Hafeel. So it is about practicing in foreign country, the prejudice of Rasa medicines, does that exist, and how you are overcoming it, or are you using Rasa medicines in your practice? Dr. Shyam?
See, I am not a Rasa person. I am basically, I follow Chakradatta and my local traditions. But I have, if you use, yes, I use at least 3 or 4 items, but whenever it is really necessary clinically, and that I get it from a very trusted source in India. I mean, 2 sources. One is Bala from Uttarakhand, and I mean Dr. Balu. Then the other one is from Palakkad. So, but it's a very, very interesting question you just asked. I don't know how the world sees the Rasa medicines. So there are issues with this one, because outright the American lobby has put their papers saying that this is damn bad. So you will be ending up in liver failures and etc. So you need to also understand Rasa medicine, which is not based on made based on the traditional values and ethics, and also even the person who's touching it. If something goes wrong somewhere, not right, then you are in trouble. So I believe that very strongly. So I'm very, very cautious if at all I use something, unless it is a trusted source. But I know Kottakkal has some kind of systems in places, but I am a very suspicious one always when I look at these medicines. So my practice is very limited when it comes to Rasa. But it is a good question to see what becomes a kind of one standard that we can say that this can get into the country and start practice. Is somebody ready to tell that very boldly? Then we should listen to. And Shyam, as a clinician for a longer period than me, he will have some insights. Yeah.
Yes, Shyam sir, kindly share your experience regarding this topic.
See, if you ask me, the Rasa kind of preparations, you say you take, Gorojanadi Guliga, or you take, Chukundipelyadi Guliga. They all contain, simple preparations. They have some of these so-called, metals and minerals in it. And recently, I came across an incident in Australia, one of the leading practitioners, right? And who was suspended, from the practice for using a Manasamitra Guliga. And they identified, some metal content, and it was banned. But surprisingly, my patients also ask, doctor, it contained metal and minerals, right? And what is your view on it, right? And I tell them, you take the lead content or a metal content in a potato or in a carrot, it might have, more content, than one of these medicine when you go for a laboratory analysis. Will you stop eating, potato and carrot? They will not, right? See, Ayurveda use, such metal preparations, which are having, those pramadhi kind of qualities, usually for a shorter period of time. In very acute conditions, where the herbal preparations are not working, then only we think of those kind of herbs. I believe, we need to create more awareness, more understanding. And sometimes, if you go for an analysis in where mercury is there, you may not find, even an atom of mercury, right? Only in the preparation it was being used, right? So I feel, it need to create, more awareness. But unfortunately, in UAE, the Siddha medicine, it was banned in UAE because of the content of high metallic and mineral preparations in it. So we, the Ayurvedic practitioners of UAE, take special care, special precautions, when suggesting any herbo mineral compounds in a diplomatic way.
Wonderful answer, sir.
But 1 minute, I just want to add on. But there are leaders of the country, off the record, I say, most of them have availed these services. One of many of the well-known physicians of India, Northern India, on Rasa medicines, especially for many diseases. So which means when it comes to individual trust and individual things are working, but we need that white paper approach to do something. So probably people like you should make more noise. So one of these pharmacies say that our product has been proven this time, which is good for some kind of standards. And Shama has put on this Manasamitram story. So this is what we go through. Now you know it.
Thank you, sirs. Thank you. The time is almost over. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. I feel it was a great fortune for me to be able to speak to you regarding these relevant topics. We are honored, and your presence itself enriched and enhanced our program. You shared also how Krishnakumar Ji enhanced and influenced your life as well, and moved you emotionally, spiritually. And we had a glimpse of him through your memories. And the discussion and analysis of yours would definitely be productive to those who seek to have a global career in Middle Eastern countries, and would inspire them as well. Once again, we will go to Krishnakumar Ji's great soul and conclude this program. Thank you everyone for joining PRACHAAR, organized by Ayurveda Health and Education Trust and Sharanya Ayurveda Hospital, supported by the Arya Vaidya Pharmacy, Coimbatore Limited, and Ayurveda Ayurveda Pharmacy. We will continue tomorrow, same time, same place. Today's program will be available on YouTube at the Sharanya Ayurveda Hospital. Thank you everyone, and have a good night.